First up is a presentation from Ryan Kohut regarding the Central Mobility Hub, followed by some Q&A specifically on Ryan's Central Mobility Hub presentation. The second half of tonight's evening will consist of a conversation around the wider connections to the community, followed by Q&A, and then we've got a couple interactive engagement polls for you as well. So with all that being said, I'm now pleased to introduce Ryan Kohut, SANDAG's Director of Strategic Projects. Ryan, take it away.
Thank you, DK. The Central Mobility Hub is one of SANDAG's most exciting and important projects. It's an essential piece of our 2021 regional plan. This is going to be San Diego's Grand Central, our Union Station, the hub of our entire transportation network, and a key to make transit as convenient as an automobile. Next slide, please. You know, we have not built a holistic transportation system that really works together. You know, we see this as an opportunity to really get it right and build upon a better foundation. We need a place that brings out the entire our entire transportation system together for the first time. Imagine, you know, the Central Mobility Hub really as the center of a wheel. And from this hub, spokes will emanate outward through the region, linking together the airport, LA, you know, other regions of California, the border, all together in one place, really allowing you to access the entire region in the state from that one mobility hub. This is also an opportunity to leverage major public investments that are being made right now at the state and federal government level, and to catalyze those investments with additional money and housing, jobs, and new public spaces and new amenities for the region to enjoy. A Central Mobility Hub will give each of us a real choice in how we move about the region without a car. Next slide, please. You know, this effort really began in late 2018 with the creation of an airport connectivity subcommittee that was created by the SANDAG board. That subcommittee identified potential solutions to connect the airport to transit and recommended that our board create a project to finally go out there and develop a solution to that long-standing problem of why doesn't our airport connect to a transit system you can see from the airport. The effort really picked up steam when the Airport Authority, the Port of San Diego, the City of San Diego, and SANDAG entered into an agreement to work together to develop a transit connection to the airport. And that agreement also included a commitment of $350 million from the airport for projects that will improve the ground transportation access in and out of the airport. Last December, the SANDAG board approved the 2021 regional plan. And that same month, we, myself and our project team, went to the SANDAG board and provided an update on all the feedback that we've received from talking to the public and other stakeholders about, our efforts to find that transit solution, and to search for a place to put a central mobility hub. We provided the board with an update and really, started to show them what we were thinking about with a downtown central mobility hub with that fast connection to the airport. Next slide, please. The heart of the San Diego region is downtown. Downtown is a business and employment center. It's where the tourism and convention businesses are centered. It's where people already use transit. A central mobility hub downtown would allow us to link together all of our existing and future transit investments and provide room for future expansion and to be able to provide that transit connection to the airport. Next slide, please. This is a system. The pieces, the idea is to, pull these pieces together to serve everyone in the region. A downtown connection that serves existing transit users coming from the south, tourists, conventioneers, and people in the downtown business community who need to get to and from the airport. people downtown who already use transit to get everywhere they go already. And setting everything up for the next big phase to bring everybody together through a central mobility hub downtown. We're also looking at a transit center at the port headquarters site, incorporating the existing Port Middletown transit or trolley connection, and allowing us to connect the car rental center. This is, that car rental center is also where the 5,000 people who work at the airport every day currently park in order to jump on a shuttle bus and get to their jobs. We want to provide a better, faster, efficient connection for those people to get to work. This transit center at the port site will also allow us to intercept car traffic coming both from the north on I-5 and from the south. And there are a lot of people, all over the county. If you live, further out, you're getting there by car. And so providing that access point from I-5, with pickup and drop off space really provides an option to be able to access the airport without being out having to use what we expect will be very congested local roadways around the airport in the future. And this will reduce congestion on those roadways. Next slide, please. Right now, we're doing a formal study of all the leading efforts to connect the airport to transit and really to set the stage for what we see as the project's real focus is that central mobility hub. We're also looking at an airport transit connection by extending our existing trolley system to the airport. That study that we're doing right now is going to be taking a look at the potential ridership, the cost, the performance, and the constructability of all of these individual concepts. And once we complete the study, we intend to share what we have learned with both the public, groups like this, other stakeholders, and of course, our own SANDAG board. Next slide, please. I just spoke about that trolley connection. We're looking at everything. We have an existing trolley system. We sat down with our partners at MTS and we, developed this potential trolley concept. We're going to be putting that through the same rigor and same analysis as all the other concepts. But it's really about all the partnerships that we have, been working with all of our partners at the airport, the port, the city, Caltrans, and trying to identify how we solve these longstanding, issues, and really looking at what is the most feasible, the most beneficial concept to serve the San Diego region. Next slide, please. So, where are we going with all this? We're looking to complete that technical concept evaluation study later this fall. From there, we're going to be doing extensive outreach with the public and stakeholders to get all of the feedback we can on these leading concepts. And then later, we're looking to get going on the formal environmental process to, do all the, needed environmental and other studies so that we can get the early phases of this project shovel ready and in the pipeline to take advantage of all of the state and federal infrastructure money that is now being made available. And then, really getting that going and trying to bring this project forward to serve the rest of serve the San Diego region. And with that, I'll hand it back to DK, our moderator.
All right. Thank you very much for that update, Ryan. We're now going to enter into a question and answer section. So I just want to remind everyone, if you are joining from the web, please feel free to type your question into the Q&A box, press send. We'll see it and answer it directly here. If you're joining by phone, please dial *9 if you'd like to ask a question. That's kind of the same thing as raising your hand. And then when you're called on, dial *6 and we'll unmute you and enable you to answer your question live. So with that being said, as mentioned, please feel free to type your questions into the box. I do see a few of them coming in. Thank you. I'll take these. Okay. Ryan, I'm going to read these to you and then you can respond as you see fit. So question number 1 comes from Catherine Rhodes. Did Mayor Todd Gloria ask for the Central Connectivity Project to be underground? Staff said underground parking at Pacific Highway and Laurel. What about other places, underground or aerial columns?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've been talking to Mayor Gloria, other electeds. We've been talking to, anyone who wants to talk to us, frankly, about how to make this work. And, I know that there are significant concerns with above ground alignments, especially as, on Harbor Drive and in other places where we could become an obstacle or a view obstacle to the waterfront. I can tell you that our focus right now is, to really look at all the options and get them laid out in the study. In that study, we're looking at completely underground options to go from the airport to downtown. We're looking at alignments down Pack Highway, especially because we think that's an opportune place to maybe put this. But we're looking at everything, and the idea is to study what's possible, identify those options, really see what the issues, both positive and negative, would be in constructing, above elevated guideways versus tunnels or cut and cover. And, frankly, some of this will come down to cost. It's, you see an elevated guideway, you don't see a tunnel, but tunnels are more expensive. And, we need to get that information so that we can get that in front of, yourselves, the public, the stakeholders, and our elected officials, so that they can make the best decision that they can, given the information we're developing.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. And I'll just remind folks that the Q&A box can be found at the bottom of your screen. There's a little ribbon with a few different icons there. Just click Q&A and you can type in your questions, English or Spanish, and we'll facilitate a verbal answer. So the next question I see, also from Catherine Rhodes, thank you for being engaged. It says, has any of the planned $350 million in normally restricted airport revenue been given to SANDAG, or is airport revenue still at $0?
What I would say about that is, the airport, pursuant to our agreement, they've, reserved up to $350 million to fund ground transportation access improvements. At present, SANDAG has not spent or accepted any of those funds. Our board has appropriated its own capital improvement budget for us to explore all these opportunities and to do our technical diligence. But as we hone in on a project and really identify how the region wants to move forward, we're certainly looking at those funds as being available to fund something that is substantially going to improve the ability of people to access our airport.
Awesome. There is a sort of second half to this question as well that says, has the Los Angeles FAA airport district officer approved the $350 million in revenue for transit? You touched on it, but can you maybe go a little bit deeper, please?
Sure. I mean, the airport has agreed to reserve those funds for future airport access improvements. We haven't gotten to the point where we have a specific purpose and or an expenditure that anyone would need to approve. So, I can tell you, I at SANDAG, we have not approached FAA and asked them, would you fund this or would you fund that? But I think that could certainly be a question, in the future.
Okay, awesome. This is a good question. It comes from Mark Stevens. It says, if the port headquarters is devoted to a mobility hub, where will the port employees be housed?
Another good question. When we did a public outreach process in April of 2021, the port sent us a letter suggesting that we explore with them, possible future opportunities on that site. The port has not, we don't have any active agreements beyond that MOU with the airport. With the port, we are working very closely with them to figure out, can we put a transit center, mobility hub, maybe maintenance facilities, maybe, the port would stay on the site. We're trying to figure a lot of that out right now. As to whether the port wants to relocate its headquarters off the site completely or go somewhere else, That's outside of our purview, and I'd have to defer to the port.
Fair enough. Thank you. We do have a raised hand from the audience. Apologies, I know that's been up there for a moment, but Nicole Burgess, your hand is up. You should be allowed to unmute yourself now. And once you click that and unmute yourself, you should be free to answer your question or to ask your question, excuse me.
My apologies. I did not mean to raise my hand.
Oh,
Saving my question. Sorry.
favorite question. Good to see you though. All right, back to the written Q&A. We have one from Roger. Oh, this is an interesting one. It says, is this plan worth it as world fuel reserves run out to power internal combustible engines until 2054? And for sure before that, there will be rations 10 to 20 years before. I'm not familiar with that. Ryan, you want to try to take that?
I mean, I'll take a shot at it. I mean, we're trying to create a multimodal mobility hub and airport transit connection. Our ultimate policy goals are to, create fast, efficient choices for people in the region and people visiting the region to get around in a more efficient, way that minimizes vehicle miles traveled and GHG emissions. I think those goals are coincident and support the more efficient use of energy. I personally can't speak to how long gasoline will exist, but we certainly, I think, are all seeing the problem the same way. We want to do environmentally responsible projects that help people get around to the places they need to go without having to fill up their car if that's not their choice.
Oh, thank you very much. I see 3 more questions left. I don't want to call last call just yet, but I appreciate the fact they're starting to come in. Holden asks, would an airport trolley extension be a separate line with transfers at Santa Fe /County Center, or an extension of the existing orange line?
That's something we're trying to sort out right now. The trolley option that we're considering in our concept evaluation study would break off of the main trolley line at Hawthorne, and then would extend west to Harbor Drive, and then go along Harbor, pretty much right where Solar Turbine is, north into the airport terminals. We're giving a really good hard look at that one. That's the concept that we came to a consensus with MTS on. If and when we get this project into the full-on CEQA environmental process, we're going to be looking at other things beyond just that alignment or that technology. And so we're going to do more homework on that.
Thank you very much. This is sort of a follow-up question. It says, given that 3 trolley lines, several bus lines, Amtrak, and Coaster already meet at near the Santa Fe Depot station, what sense does it make to have a central mobility hub several blocks away?
The Santa Fe Depot is San Diego's central mobility hub, or at least that's what it was built to be 100 years ago. Now, and it's still a useful place. Things do come together there. And I envision us trying to incorporate the utility of Santa Fe Depot in whatever we're doing. But the issue with that building and that facility, it's a historic structure. It's too small to really integrate new and the new future transit modes that we believe will come online in the coming decades. And and also it's not really in the center of downtown. We're trying to go back and build a better foundation for how we link together our transportation choices here in San Diego, when we're looking for some space and room to develop that capacity to serve the future of the region. And I think there's just some limitations at Santa Fe Depot that make that difficult to do as much as we think needs to be done.
Fair. And so I know you did answer Roger's question earlier about fuel. He did send something else, just a clarification. We don't need to answer the question. Just as, sorry, we're not talking about cars running out of fuel. We meant for airplanes running out of fuel. So just clarification for the sake of the audience. But the next question comes from Dylan. And it says, will the SANDAG Airport Connectivity Concept Study consider innovative mobility solutions along with the trolley extension and traditional APM solutions as potential options?
We're looking at alignments and, we're looking at fixed guideway transit. There are many different technologies that can utilize a fixed guideway these days. Rubber tires, monorails, conventional rail. Every year they're coming up with some new cool thing. We're trying to figure out where these things should go, how they might operate, how would they serve the region. And then at some point, if we really sort that out, then we're going to be going out to industry and really trying to see what, cool new things are available and trying to put ourselves in a position to allow the region to make a good choice on what we should move forward with. But I'm excited about all the new stuff coming out, and I think we all should be.
Amen. Okay, that I believe is the last question that we have for the moment. So we will have an additional Q&A portion at the very end of this meeting. So if anything comes to mind, if you haven't quite figured out how to word that question, bear with us. We'll get back to you. But actually, hold on. Sorry. As I'm wrapping up, one last question from Catherine. It says federal FAA laws said central mobility hub at closest distance to airport. Port headquarters is closer than downtown San Diego and along the existing Los corridor. Will these legal issues be analyzed? Ryan?
I could say that, both the port headquarters and downtown San Diego are interesting locations, and, both of them are in relative proximity to the airport. We're really looking to find solutions that can deliver a, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-minute ride between, either the port or downtown and the airport terminals. I'm not aware of any legal issues related to how far we can be from the airport, though. So I guess maybe I just don't understand that one.
Sure. Okay. Well, like I said, I mean, we definitely will have additional opportunities for Q&A as well as public engagement. Yeah, we got time. Last question, or next question, I should say, from M. Staples. Would an autonomous connection to the airport create as many jobs compared to traditional trolley systems?
I think the way we're looking at this is, we're trying to position a project that can serve the people of the region, whether they're trying to get to their work, they're trying to get to appointments, or, we all do things every day that we have to travel around for to live our lives. We want to provide alternatives to how you do those things. Now, if we get this project rolling through and we go out there and secure, some of the substantial state and federal dollars that are out there, we want to bring those investments back to San Diego. That will bring jobs with it. And then on top of that, these investments creating, these transportation links. And, I talked about it before, new public amenities and new, places for, the community to come together. Those things are catalytic investments that bring together all sorts of secondary effects, whether that be, employment and new places for people to work, whether, and I think the big thing in California right here is our economy is being held back by a lack of housing, affordable, unaffordable. It doesn't, we don't flat out don't have enough places for people to live. And transportation is housing. Creating those transportation options, those, mobility hubs are great places to, stack additional housing around so everyone can take maximum use of those investments. We believe that will, create jobs, create vitality, and really help our region grow. There may be marginal differences in employment based on, a trolley versus an APM solution. They all require maintenance. They all require various things. I guess the only real difference is whether there's a person driving the APM versus a trolley. But, those are important questions, and we will get to them later once we better understand the solutions in front of us.
Okay. So I feel like the questions are slowing down, but like I've mentioned a couple times, we will have additional opportunities at the tail end of this meeting. So Ryan, thank you so much for that information, for that presentation. I think we click over to the next slide. I'm excited to introduce my colleague, Marissa Manga, who is our senior mobility strategist. And she's here tonight to talk to us a little bit about the wider corridor study area and some of the transportation solution possibilities that are on the horizon. So Marissa, welcome and take it away.
Thanks a lot, DK, and good evening, everyone. Lately, I've been saying that wherever Ryan goes, I follow, and I'm on the team supporting Ryan with the Central Mobility Hub project, as he's been looking at locations for an airport transit connection area, in addition to a longer vision for a downtown Central Mobility Hub. I'm responsible for examining some of the multimodal connections that can make accessing that transit connection or a downtown Central Mobility Hub that much more convenient and seamless. And so wanted to give you a little bit of context for the area we're looking at as a part of this evaluation. And then this evening, I'll be highlighting some of the multimodal connections that we're examining and we'll continue to examine as the project moves forward. So we really do see many transportation solutions as really important to supporting connections to the airport transit connection and developing a longer-term Central Mobility Hub downtown. And these types of projects that we identify as important connections build upon things that are in the city's local plans and our own 2021 regional plan, which is our long-range transportation plan that looks out to 2050. Completing these types of connections that are within these various plans will help us be more competitive for state and federal funds to implement projects. So we're really trying to kind of dial in on the types of solutions that we can identify that are going to be effective, that we can memorialize and bundle in order for us to get some dollars into the region to better design and eventually construct and implement. So on the map, we show our kind of focus area for our connections evaluation in dark blue, and that includes communities like Midway District, Old Town San Diego, parts of Point Loma, and downtown. Also want to be sure to acknowledge the outlying communities in the lighter blue. And tonight I'll be highlighting some of the proposed connections that we're looking at specifically to get to and from the proposed Port Transit Center at Middletown that Ryan highlighted as part of his presentation, and some of the communities to the west. So next slide, please. This isn't the first time we've talked about the Central Mobility Hub and shared some information with you all publicly. We were fortunate enough last year to hold 2 public meetings similar to this to get feedback on connections to the airport and also ideas regarding a Central Mobility Hub for the region. And so we had started to identify some transportation solutions for some of the communities to the west of the airport. And now we're taking a deeper dive to look closer at the surrounding Port Transit Center at Middletown. Next slide, please. We've been fortunate to collect some great, well-rounded feedback already to date on transportation opportunities and challenges in and around the airport as part of our outreach efforts. We hosted a fully interactive online map that people could use to specify locations where they wanted to see safer walking and biking connections or more convenient transit options, and even considerations for the movement of goods. We had more than 400 combined map, survey, and open-ended comments that were collected, which was really exciting. Next slide, please. And we heard loud and clear that the Central Mobility Hub should offer a welcoming and walkable experience to anyone that's either using it to reach transit or the airport or simply enjoy it as a new public space. That there should be helpful amenities like convenient and safe bike parking and charging for electric vehicles, including any transit vehicles or shuttles that may serve it. And that the hub really needs to help reduce traffic congestion locally and help to reduce the traffic congestion in other parts of the region as well. Next slide. Safe and convenient connections to the hub were also noted as being really important takeaways from the feedback received so far. Safer protected bikeways that are much more separated from traffic are needed. We need faster and more frequent local transit connections to and from either an area like the Port Transit Center that would host an airport transit connection, either trolley or people mover, but also safe, fast and frequent connections to a central mobility hub downtown as well. We need safer, better intersections for people to cross major roads. There's a lot of high-speed, wide roads like Pacific Highway, for example, in this area, and it is not a welcoming environment to be walking around in today. Roads like Sports Arena Boulevard and Rosecrans were called out as also being very high speed for people that want to get to a central mobility hub using an option other than a car. Next slide. To help address some of these takeaways, we will need to consider a very large mix of transportation options for people to use to get to Central Mobility Hub or to the airport from various places throughout the region. And options can include providing a dedicated space on streets at various times for buses and shuttles to help move and pull people a lot faster through the car traffic. Offering on-demand rides via shuttles or services like Uber and Lyft that can also offer shared rides with other people headed in the same direction. We need to be really creative about the types of shuttles we're using, including low-speed, lightweight shuttles in certain neighborhoods and communities. And we need to definitely also include safer ways for people to comfortably use bikes, e-bikes, trikes, everything else that's out there right now that people are using in their communities to reach a central mobility hub and also regional transit stations and many other popular community destinations. Next slide.
Now we're going to break it up just ever so slightly. We've got a poll question for you audience members. This is the first of 4, so bear with us 25% of the way. But this question reads, what do you think is the most pressing issue that needs to be addressed as part of the Central Mobility Hub project? This is like your single most pressing issue. So you only pick one, your top one. The options are improving traffic, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, creating additional public spaces, improving safety for people walking, biking, and riding transit, providing a direct transit connection to the airport, or other. And if you type other, if you choose other, please type that into your Q&A box. Again, this is your most pressing issue. Your single most pressing issue. Is it improving traffic, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, creating additional public spaces, improving safety for people walking, biking, and riding transit, or providing a direct transit connection to the airport? You see our answers are just about there. So I will go ahead and give this 5 more seconds. And then we'll end this poll. Okay, and we'll share those results with you. Okay, just at a quick glance, it looks like providing a direct transit connection to the airport scores quite highly, as does improving safety for people walking, biking, and riding transit. All right, Marissa, back to you.
Thanks a lot. So next, I'd like to highlight a bit about the area surrounding the proposed Port Transit Center station at Middletown and the types of improvements to help people get to this site a lot easier, a lot safer. The potential Port Transit Center is shown in purple. Right now, not gonna lie, I'm surrounded by a lot of concrete, asphalt roads that move mostly cars. It's not a great location for walking, biking, or accessing even the trolley that serves that location today. Next slide. And zooming out, we can see that there's some opportunities to better connect the site by bike to nearby neighborhoods. The gray shaded area, just for illustrative purposes, represents a 15-minute walk to show how close the Port Transit Center is not only to the airport, but also to denser nearby communities like Little Italy and parts of Uptown. The dashed pink lines represent all of the opportunities where we can add protected bike lanes on streets running north-south like Pacific Highway, Kettner and India, along with some of their intersecting streets that run east and west, including Laurel to Balboa Park. In fact, since we created this graphic, the city's already partially implemented some bike lanes with flex posts on one side of Laurel near the park, which is great to see. I've already used it myself. Streets like Pacific Highway and Kettner, though, have a lot of room to add this type of protection for people biking, especially since cars really do drive at high speeds through the area. Next slide, please. And just to add in a note that even within the 15-minute walk shed in the Uptown, Middletown community, there's areas that are just not as walkable even today. The dashed lines shown mostly on the east side of the freeway show missing sidewalks or gaps. And so there's a lot of things we can be doing to improve walkability and bikeability right in and around the Port Transit Center area. Next slide. Zooming back in a little closer to the site itself, I want to highlight some potential opportunities for how different modes could potentially reach the site. So in bright pink or magenta is the people mover or similar type of technology that Ryan was describing regarding an airport transit connection that would take folks from this transit station to the airport directly. The dark blue line represents how there could be direct access from the Interstate 5 freeway in order for passenger pickup and drop off, either through maybe ride hailing or some shuttles, could use and access the site without adding to traffic congestion on local roads. So there would be a direct access point from freeway to the site, could loop around, pick up or drop off and get back onto the freeway with ease. The orange dashed lines represent those protected bike lanes that I described a few moments ago, running north-south on those major streets. And there also, though, needs to be a way for on-demand shuttles, shared rides, and other fleets, as we like to call them, to potentially access the station direct from the local roads so that they can also get to the airport seamlessly. There are a lot of dense communities nearby. We're well aware that even the nearby Midway community to the northwest is also set to densify, and there's going to be some demand for using some of the local streets via pooled rides to get to the site, maybe using Pacific Highway or Kettner instead of the freeway. So we need to make sure to think about providing access for those types of services directly onto the site. And if we look at the next slide, we highlight with some multicolored rectangles inside the site where some of those pickup and drop-off points or curb access locations could potentially be. And we've also highlighted with the circles the various intersections surrounding the site that need to be improved for better, safer walkability. That could mean reduced crossings, making it easier to cross knowing that there's some slower traffic happening there, making it a transit station that's truly pleasant and walkable to be near. The dashed green line on the map that crosses the freeway and accesses the south side of the Port Transit Center represents a concept of improving the existing Palm Avenue freeway footbridge. Right now there is a footbridge for folks who are on the east side of the freeway on India to cross over the freeway and walk down to Kettner, but it's a little scary sometimes, especially at night. Ramps going up, Kettner's high speed. And so the idea would be to think about a connection for both pedestrians and people on bikes and also e-bikes to cross the freeway and get directly to the Port Transit Center, but also to Pacific Highway. Next slide.
All right, me again. We've got our second of 4 poll questions. And this one says, with the improvements proposed as part of the Essential Mobility Hub project, what types of alternate transportation options are you most likely to use to get to the airport? And this one is a little different. It says select all that apply. So you can choose multiples, right? Whether that's people mover or trolley, rapid bus or local bus, bike or e-bike, which includes personal and or shared bikes and scooters, walking, an on-demand shuttle, or other. And remember, for other, you can type that into the Q&A box. But this question asks you to list all that you would like, but with the improvements proposed as part of the CMH Essential Mobility Hub project. What types of alternative transportation options are you most likely to use to get to the airport? People mover or trolley, rapid bus or local bus, bike or e-bike, walking, or perhaps an on-demand shuttle? See the answers flowing in. And we'll give it another 5 seconds or so. Most of you have answered. And yeah. I think we can go ahead and end this poll here and share the results. So you can see Trolley leading the charge, rapid bus, local bus, biking, walking. Okay, so you got a few options there. Thank you. Marissa, back to you.
Thanks a lot. So now we're going to enter the final phase of the presentation where we're looking at some of the higher capacity transit connection concepts to communities to the west. And last year, a lot of solutions had been identified through our public outreach and collaboration with our partner agencies like the city and MTS and airport, the port, to think about ways we could get, faster, more frequent transit service to communities like Midway and Point Loma, Ocean Beach, et cetera. And so shown here on the map are lines in green, which represent planned next-gen rapid routes. And the highlighted areas in yellow represent opportunities where dedicated space on street could be identified for those rapid services to have all to themselves. It's going to allow for a much smoother, more pleasant transit experience. It's a lot more competitive with driving, particularly with the sports arena site getting redeveloped very soon. There's going to be a real need to provide really high quality rapid transit service that runs frequent and very late. And these types of services could connect to our existing Old Town Transit Center, looking at opportunities to connect them to the proposed Port Transit Center, and then of course to downtown San Diego as we look ahead later on into a downtown central mobility hub. There are some limitations we see in providing some dedicated space on street for transit or bus lanes. As we get west of Nimitz into Ocean Beach, it starts getting a little more constrained in that way, but we still really do believe that the faster or the frequent rapid transit service should go all the way to the ocean. This is kind of the map we had developed as of last year with these types of solutions to get people better connected to communities that are either densifying like Sports Arena and places like Liberty Station where there's already a lot of trips and a lot of desire for people to go to that area to shop, to eat, get to Shelter Island, et cetera. So it's about prioritizing some transit solutions to those neighborhoods that are already generating a lot of trips. And we'll see how things change in some of the communities like Midway in the years to come. Next slide. One of the concepts we're thinking about longer term is to potentially convert the rapid bus line to some rail or people mover-like experience, remaining kind of technology agnostic at the moment. It could be a trolley extension or something kind of similar, but when we're dedicating space for the bus lines, it can be a longer term vision for us to convert it to a rail solution that's fast, frequent, and late running. And potentially still serve the coastal community of Ocean Beach if we were maybe to elevate that type of service and not put so much strain on the roadway network. So one solution is to think about having this line get from Ocean Beach through Midway at Sports Arena over to the Port Transit Center area and link up to the connection that gets to the airport. And if we go to the next slide, another concept we're looking at is to kind of extend the people mover kind of connection to the airport that Ryan was describing and make a full circle whereby the service would run west of the airport to serve the Liberty Station area and kind of loop back around towards the Port Transit Center. So it could be a new type of option combined with rapid bus service to get people to these destinations without having to rely on a car. And next slide, please.
All right, we are into our last two poll questions. This one's a little more quick fire, back to back. But question number 3 says, what improvements are most important to you as part of the Central Mobility Hub projects? This one, rank your top three. Question number three, pick your top three. Increase in safer, more protected bikeways, more attractive, safer pedestrian walkways, direct transit to the airport, less congestion on the surrounding roadways, more housing near transit stops and bikeways, more on-demand transit and shared ride options, or more public spaces like plazas or promenades. Again, if you select other, please feel free to type those into the box. Remember, question number three, pick your top three. What improvements are most important to you as part of the Central Mobility Hub project? But an increase in safer, more protected bikeways, more attractive, safer pedestrian walkways, direct transit to the airport, less congestion on surrounding roadways, more housing near transit stops and bikeways, more on-demand transit and shared ride options, or more public spaces such as plazas or promenades. This one's tough. You gotta really try to rank them, but nice that you can pick your top three out of a several there. Answers are coming in. So maybe give us 10 more seconds. Most important to you as part of this Central Mobility Hub project. Okay, I think we're in a good spot. We can go ahead and close this poll now. We'll share those results briefly. So you can see direct transit to the airport, again, ranking quite highly, but more public spaces along with more attractive, safe pedestrian walkways coming in strong as well. Increase in safer, more protected bikeways. Yeah, we see that. Okay, good. Thank you. Next question. This one's one of my favorites. Number four, poll question number 4. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest, how effective do you think the strategies presented will be in getting people to use the Port Transit Center and take transit and other alternative travel options? Again, 1 is the lowest, 5 is the highest. And the question is, how effective do you think the strategies presented will be in getting people to use the Port Transit Center and take transit and other alternative travel options? All right, I think we're just about there. We'll give it maybe another 5 or 10. 1 being the lowest, effectively not effective. 5 being the highest, being very effective. Okay, I think we can pause here and we'll share those results with you. Looks like there's a lot of confidence in this room. We appreciate that. 4s and 5s mostly, you know, but also I think there's some folks who have different ideas and we respect those as well. So that brings the poll portion of our presentation to a close. If you go to the next slide, I think we jump straight into the Q&A. So just remind folks one more time, for questions and answers, if you're on the webinar, go ahead and type your questions into the box, press send, I'll see them. And if you're joining by phone, please dial *9 if you'd like to ask a question. And then when we call on you, you can dial *6 and unmute. We do have a good amount of questions in the queue already. So Marissa, Ryan, we will go straight in. First question, have you done a 15-minute bike and e-bike access shed as you have for walking? I'm not entirely sure what an access shed is, but Marissa, Ryan, perhaps you do?
I can take that one. So like we showed on one of our slides, we had kind of a gray area showing kind of a hypothetical or a typical 15-minute walk. Want to assure Nicole that we are looking at other types of sheds for bike and e-bike access, especially since we know e-bikes, as they're gaining popularity, can enable people to reach places that they wouldn't otherwise have been comfortable or willing to do on a bike. And so, for example, the protected bike lanes that we were showing with the dashed pink lines on Pacific Highway and surrounding streets, we envision those going all the way up Pacific Highway to Mission Bay, and we show the Laurel connection all the way to Balboa Park. Because if you were to start at the Port Transit Center with an e-bike, for example, getting up to Mission Bay or getting up the hill to the park is that much easier with an electrified solution. So we are realizing the opportunities that those devices, the doors, the opportunities that people have to get to more places than they would with just walking or maybe traditional biking if they're not comfortable with a non-electric bike.
Okay. Thank you very much. This next question is from Karina. It says, what is the plan to make this mostly impervious area more green and shaded? Because without shade, the project will be too inhospitable for us to use as extreme heat events grow exponentially with this climate crisis. Protected bike lanes and safe ATP infrastructure is a must, but so is shade.
Yeah, great point. I completely agree. I know we're working with Ryan's team to look at places like the Port Transit Center specifically to provide kind of a shaded, pleasant experience right there on site and in the surrounding area. But it's also going to be really important for us to think about how we can shade our infrastructure, including active transportation infrastructure like bikeways. I happen to be somebody that rides my e-bike on Pacific Highway a lot. It is very hot and sunny on that roadway with the jet fuel on top of it. And so there's just a lot that can be done to try to improve that experience so that I'm not getting burned biking and anyone else biking that area. And we also have to really think about proactively doing outreach to whoever it is that may be developing or redeveloping areas along that corridor north and south of the Port Transit Center station. Because as maybe some of those land uses change, they need to help contribute to making it a more shaded experience and also thinking about our urban canopy with some trees and plants. And we can think about even planters included in protected bikeway buffers as well. And so it can really improve the way in which we use the corridor to walk and bike different from today.
No, I could not agree more. I've tried biking home where I live in Midway from the office, and it is a challenge. Next question. The original port master plan required a minimum of 2 levels of basements under all projects on former marshland to future-proof against sea level rise and get rid of seismic hazards of liquefaction. What is SANDAG's position of at least 2 levels of underground?
I guess I'll take that one. We're looking at, both the horizontal transit facilities, and then we're looking at, a potential transit center on the port site and one, downtown. Sea level rise is real. Climate resiliency is a challenge. We're certainly going to be looking to incorporate those kind of climate resiliency requirements into anything that we build, especially when it comes to habitable structures. I can't speak to, basement requirements or the groundwater issue or, how deep we would build anything, but that is very much a design concern that we will be taking very seriously.
Thank you, Ryan. Next question comes from Nicole. It says, capturing, harvesting, cleaning, and moving water should be a priority. How can this project address water? For example, has a linear park down Pacific Highway been considered?
I think that's something we should definitely explore, Ryan, with kind of water harvesting aspects of the infrastructure. But rest assured that as we do look towards evaluating whether an airport transit connection would potentially go downtown like Ryan was describing, we have to definitely look at ways to complement that connection with things like parks. So whether that's taking a fresh look at Harbor Drive and or Pacific Highway in the downtown area, I'm very motivated to do that and work with Ryan's team to have some complementary public spaces, not just at the Central Mobility Hub downtown and not just at the One Port Transit Center, but along the corridor. That's going to be really important to help make it kind of a complete well-rounded experience for anyone who's on the street watching a people mover or a trolley go by.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to to the prior question about shade. This is an opportunity. We're focused on connecting people. We're focused on bringing those transportation connections together to creating public amenities. And yeah, that's going to exist at whatever public transportation hubs we create, a transit center, a central mobility hub. But, you know, how we link those things together, you know, as we connect those points, we want to do it right. And we need to look to create a habitable, livable community. And, you know, these are the things we're going to keep talking to you guys about and help us not miss anything. So thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. We have a few more questions coming in, and bear in mind, so we've reached the end of the presentation as far as new information. So if you have questions, whether it's about Marissa's part, about Ryan's part, now's the time, get them in the queue. We will go through as many as we can with the time that we have here tonight. So rolling on, Michael Donovan asks, are you addressing park and ride solutions to move more remote commuters and reduce VMT, which means vehicle miles traveled?
Yeah, I can go ahead and take that one. Given that there's going to be a need for people from all parts of the region to be able to get to the airport or get to the Central Mobility Hub, it's going to be really important for us to expand not only our existing kind of transit park and ride opportunities, but to think about other locations, especially in very suburban or rural areas where we have more park and pool locations. And what I mean by that is an area potentially where people can park, and instead of a traditional transit stop that can feed them in to Central Mobility Hub or to the airport, we can leverage some of our flexible fleets like on-demand shuttles and whatnot to get people to the airport. They can use that freeway direct access ramp to get to the Port Transit Center, for example. And so if we can strategically place a lot of those park and pool options to complement our transit network, that can help to reduce the reliance that folks may have on cars to take the freeway direct to the airport like they do today.
Thank you. We have a hand raised from the audience. I see Catherine Rhodes. I'm going to click this now. You should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question. So please go right ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to mention, today the city of San Diego approved the Midway Rising, the public project in the Midway neighborhood, which is, basically on that same liquefiable soils. And their plan right now is to have, what I heard is zero underground parking. They're not doing anything underground. They're starting at level, and then they're going to put some above ground parking in adjacent parcels. And this is again what I think would be a good thing to look for, that underground corridor that would actually be able to connect to Midway Rising underground, in the Midway area. And I think right now, you guys should actually, talk to the city and look into what you're going to do for this project. They need some help.
Thank you, Catherine. And now the next written question that I see comes from Lynn. It says, what can you do about homeless people hanging out in such places? This is such a great improvement, and I hate to be a Debbie Downer with this question. It's a tough question, but I will kick it over to Ryan.
Yeah, I'll take a shot at that. I mean, the truth is we have a serious unhoused population here in San Diego and state and nationally. There's no easy answer. It's something that we've all seen. It's a human issue that we have been trying to solve in various different ways. I think the transportation solutions that we provide to the greater region, I think, can contribute to some of that solution. But I haven't seen an easy answer to that. But I can tell you that we're going to be taking that issue very seriously, because we want these spaces, we want these solutions and tools to get around, to be accessible to everyone. And they can't be unless they are safe, they are clean, and they are welcoming. But, there is a big societal issue there that, there's no one solution to, and we're all going to have to just hold hands and pitch in on this together.
Thanks, Ryan. I see one or two comments, not as many questions, but I'll just read some of these comments here. They say it would be great to actually see the access shed for both bikes and e-bikes. Don't disagree there. There's another comment here that says, not a question, but a statement. The so-called shared mobility devices are a public safety disaster. And I've never seen any empirical evidence that they offer any net benefit. Enforcement of rules is non-existent. That's a comment, not a question. But as I wait for more questions to come in, I'll continue to read the things that come my way. So if anyone else has any questions, like I said, you can raise your hand. If you're dialing in, you can dial *9 to ask a question, and then dial *6 to unmute once you've been acknowledged. Other than that, feel free to use the Q&A box, or like I said, you can raise your hand. At the moment, I don't see any more, but we're happy to take a few if folks have them. In the event that there are no further questions here tonight, I believe if we go to the next slide, we've got a few other opportunities for additional engagement. Today, September 8th, for the next 2 weeks between now and September 22nd, we do have a website, a virtual engagement website called Social Pinpoint. This is a really cool, neat thing. You can kind of click, drag, drop, get creative, put pins on the map, and like add your own comments with questions. We see those, we record those, we catalog them, and we apply them to the project as well. So you can visit sandag.mysocialpinpoint.com/CMH and connections for the next 2 weeks between now and the 22nd of September with any additional comments, questions. Like I said, even just for the sake of your own imagination, it's just fun to kind of click around and look at places that you recognize. So I'd encourage everyone to spend some time there. I do see one more question that just popped in. We'll allow it. It says, do you have an estimated date for when a central mobility site will be identified? Ryan, I think that one's for you.
I wouldn't say that we have an estimated date, but I can tell you that, our concept study is going to be done in the fall to really help us identify how we want to do the transit piece of this. I think this is going to be part of a greater regional discussion. I think we believe that this central mobility hub is absolutely core and key to, really developing meaningful solutions to help people get around the region. We think it is core and key to how we increase the availability of housing. We think it is core to the future economic growth of the region. We want to work with you. We want to work with the rest of the public and, everyone in the region to try to, come to that understanding and identify, this central mobility hub we all want to be. What do we want it to be? And but I think that conversation can happen over the next year and a half too, if it takes that. And once we make up our mind, I think we can make it happen.
Amen. Okay, people got a second wind. There's one more question that's in here. This might be the last question, but we have the time to do it. So this one comes from Stacy, and it says, given the energy around the Central Mobility Hub as it relates to airport connections, have you heard anything about the airport getting relocated if and when we outgrow our one runway?
I haven't heard anything about moving the airport in probably 10 years. I'm sure somebody's talking about it somewhere, but I don't see that as practically happening anytime soon. The San Diego airport is what it is. It's a very busy, it's a great airport. A lot of money is being invested to make it the best airport it could possibly be. I've seen what they did with Terminal 2, and I think it was beautiful, and I can't wait to see a completed Terminal 1. I think we as a region need to be proud of what we have and make it the best we can.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Ryan, Marissa, thank you. I think if we go to our next slide, it's our last slide, and then we'll just kind of wrap this entire evening up, I think with a thank you, right? So thank you for the public, for the questions, for the engagement. We appreciate it. We appreciate the time of our SANDAG team, our translator, Carlos. Thank you very much. We do have additional opportunities to stay connected. Like I said, you go to sandag.org/Essential Mobility Hub. There's the social pinpoint site that is up for the next 2 weeks, and that information will be distributed. But you can always find us on social media at SANDAG Region or at SANDAG. Email centralmobilityhub@sandag.org at any point in time, and those all somehow come to me, and I'll see them and we'll get a response out to you. So without any further ado, we'll excuse the group tonight and just said thank you very much for your time, your engagement, and your participation. We will be here whenever you need us.